lovely harbours, great sailing, some cooling bay stops, uphill hikes, lovely food and some interesting weather. This is our 3-week Sporades sailing holiday. We started in Ore on the Greek island of Evia. 6 boats plus the lead boat Utraki. And straight away we got some great sailing as we headed towards the Gulf of Volos. After some lovely sailing in the Volu Channel, the wind dropped and we motored to our first overnight stop at Trickery. A little bit of tight squeezing in here. Trickery was one of the many lovely harbours that we stopped at. Next day we had a lovely sail as we headed east. So after a 19-20 mile sail, we're here in the lovely Amos Bay. Free swinging tonight. We loved free swinging, and this was a lovely peaceful night watching the sunset on the hillside. The next morning a gentle breeze to start with as we continued to move east. The wind soon built, and again we had a nice sail. We passed south of Skiathos Island before heading up the channel towards Skiathos town, which was our next stop. So we left Skiathos, didn't travel very far, just to one of the next islands. So we take advantage of a nice bay and have a swim. So after the swim and a lovely lunch, we headed east again towards Skopolos Island. hung round a little to let the ferry leave before we went into the little harbour of Loutraki. We're in here to get a bit of shelter because there's forecast some high winds. Just to see how they come through. While some took some time to do a little bit of exercise. Because of the poor weather forecast, we did a day sail the next day, and after that moved down the coast to Neoclima. We took advantage of our time in Neoclima to stretch our legs and have a lovely walk down the coast. Next morning we headed out east again towards the island of Lonesis, and we had a bit of a rock and rolly ride. We were heading for Petitri, but the swell coming down the channel and into the harbour meant it didn't look that comfortable, so we carried on and moved up to Stenivala. From Stenivala we made a 4-day trip to Skiros Island, 40 nautical miles to the southeast. Now that trip's covered in a separate video and the link for it is in the comments below. After our trip to Skiros we again came back to Stenivala, Petitri again looking a little bit uncomfortable. From there we headed out west, heading for Skopelos. We had intended to go further north, but bad weather was again forecast, so we're going to Skopelos for shelter. As we sailed past Petitri, a super yacht owned by a Russian billionaire was anchored in the bay. It cost $600 million apparently. After we'd gone through the channel, the south of Lonesis Island, we had great conditions, so we took advantage and went for a great sail on the western side of Lonesis. We then went into Skopelos town to shelter behind the breakwater. We had an extended stay in Skopelos town, and when we did break out, the swell left by the winds of the past few days gave us a bit of a ride. The contrast when we got to Panormus Bay on the eastern side of Skopelos was striking, where we rafted up and had a peaceful night. headed out west the next morning, and before too long we managed to pick up a commercial fishing line and a buoy. It had wrapped round the keel. We managed to free it okay, but the lead boat were nearby and they wanted to come by and check that it hadn't left anything that might tangle with the propeller. Once we got the all clear, we were away again and got some really good fast sailing. We passed a disturbance in the water where some dolphins and loads of birds were having a bit of a feeding frenzy, obviously having found some fish. We soon got to the delightful town of Kiriaki, where we were going to spend a couple of nights. Mike, who was on the boat moored next to us, valiantly overcame the extra challenges he had in getting on and off the boat. The forecast of storms, including thunder and lightning, meant we didn't go anywhere the next day, so we took the trek up to the town of Trickery, right on top above the village. Cheers! From the top there were great views of the island of Evia, the Greek mainland, and into the Gulf of Volos. When we got back down we had a walk around the lovely town of Kiriaki, which is one of our favourite places. It's even got its own shipyard. And we got back just in time before the rain, thunder and lightning arrived, just as forecast. The next morning, as we were moving into the Gulf of Volos, we could see just how far we'd climbed the day before. Late morning, the wind dropped off, so we headed into Neas Bay, where we could have lunch and a swim. In the afternoon the wind came back, so we were straight back out and had a great sail in the Gulf. Before we headed back into Neas Bay, where we were sheltered from most of the wind and spent the evening on our own under the stars. As we headed back to Ore the next morning, the weather was very different from when we left there nearly 3 weeks ago. Luckily the rain stopped by the time we got to the quay. We were soon all tied up after another great sailing holiday experience.